because Facebook
Cool.
was giving us issues, but we're live on YouTube. What's going on, you guys? How we doing?
How's it
Coach
going,
Doing
David
good.
Muhammad?
here. We got
Hey,
Master
guys.
Gary Schill, Professor Muhammad, and it has been a morning of technical issues, dog. Like I can't imagine. I mean, it's nice. Like it's technology is great when it works, and when it's not, it makes you want to throw. I'm sure you guys seen Office Space, right? Like where he just
With
takes
a-
the
with
sledgehammer
a
to
stapler?
the printer. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I want to get right into introducing a good friend and colleague of ours that we've had for many years. This is Master Gary Schill with Peak Performance Martial Arts and Summer Camp and After School. Did I butcher the name, or is that all of it?
No, you're right on.
All
Good
right.
job.
Perfect. So so we're out of Texas, and remind me again the city. Which part of Texas are we in, Gary?
We're in a city called Cedar Park. We're just north of Austin. You don't know where one starts and one ends anymore, the way that it is now, but
Gotcha.
that's where we're at.
So so Gary, I mean, we were talking a little bit pre-show. You have a unique I mean, as far as martial arts schools go, Metro is a toddler. Like where we opened up in 2018, still very very much new in the industry, and so we learned from we've had. I mean, you were one of the first contacts we met at in a group that we were in many years ago, and right away, I mean, you had a giver's gain mentality of like I. In hindsight, like I'm sure you just sat through like a good portion of and you're like, dude, I could give this seminar, but I'm gonna sit through here and I'm gonna help out these other schools that need help coming up. Been a huge part into kind of what we do and how we do it, and you're always a great sounding board. If you don't mind, just give us tell us who you are, how you got started in martial arts, both as a student and then when you opened up your first school or started working in the schools, and then we'll
Let
get
me
into
just add to that. Let me add to that question because
yep.
Master Shield, Gordon Ryan is in your backyard. The B team's in your backyard. You have the absolute biggest jujitsu names and growth of jujitsu happening like all over the world. It's right in your backyard. And I visited your school, and I got to train and coach for the day. I appreciate that. Like, you know. As you introduce yourself, how is it that you're surviving? I mean, your school was like, it was amazing. The students, the coaches, the culture. And I would never think unless I saw it for myself that you were that school is just, it's doing amazing and thriving with the biggest names on the planet, like right around the corner from you. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah, so all great questions. Let me start with history, and then I'll get into the questions about Gordon Ryan and Tim Kennedy and all these mega, just massive guys that we have in our community, right? I think Austin is now probably the jiu-jitsu mecca at the current state, right?
Sure.
So let's back up and let's start history. So I
Yeah.
started martial arts. My dad was in the military, and every 2 to 3 years we would transfer bases. And so while I hated moving as a kid because I was always leaving my friends, as an adult, I really appreciate it now because I got exposed to a lot of different people, cultures, a lot of different martial arts, because whatever was being taught at the base gym is what you taught. It could have been Taekwondo. It could have
Yeah.
been Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. It could have been Judo. Could have been wrestling. Could have been any of the other striking arts, Tung Sudo, any of those things, right? So that was a great thing. 1989, I went to work for my instructor, and that was in San Antonio. And I even remember him coming to me and saying, "Hey, I want to do an after school and a summer camp program." Sorry about that, guys. And I said, "You want to be a daycare?" And
That's
he,
what
he says,
everyone
"No, no,
thinks.
no."
That's what everyone
Yeah, 100%, right? And he goes, "No, no, no. After school and summer camp, but I want to make sure it's centric around the martial arts training." And I'm like, "Okay." So we built this thing, and that was probably one of the first after school martial arts and summer camp martial arts programs in the state of Texas. And so we started doing that, and it did really, really well. I mean, it blew up, right? Because you're serving a need that daycares really can't provide. The YMCA is no disrespect to them, but they're a joke. It's a Lord of the Flies mentality. It's kids watching kids. There's not professional development going on inside of their environment. And so fast forward to 1996, I moved from San Antonio to Austin. I started my school in early 1997 part time because I had a really good job and I didn't want to leave it. I was making really good money. And from 97 to 2001, I ran my school out of my church. In
Oh wow.
2001, I took a fateful trip to Korea and China for 3 weeks. And that was right after my job that I had. We had run a sales contest for a year. And so I was the only one that qualified for the sales contest. The reward was a 3-week trip to France, the first week and a half in Paris, the last week and a half in the south of France in Monaco. And so I was the only one that qualified. And they found some small, stupid loophole, even though I was 315% over quota for the year. They found some stupid loophole because I didn't push a button on the computer on the CRM for one phone call. And the sales contest I got disqualified from. And what it boiled down to is the president of the company didn't want to go to France, didn't want to go over there. And I'm like, dude, I've lived in Europe. I grew up over there. So I don't need someone to hold my hand. Plus, I'm a grown ass man. I can handle these things on my own. But they found this disqualifying thing. So I was very disenfranchised. So we take a trip to Korea and China and train over there for 3 weeks, all martial arts training. And we train all kinds of different styles and different things. And I'll tell you what, I realized I love doing this a whole lot more than I love my corporate job. I love the impact that I make on people's lives, on the impact that it makes on my own life and how I feel about things. And so I wrote my resignation letter on the plane ride home, gave it to my boss that next Monday morning. And 3 weeks later, we went from a part-time school to a full-time school. And that was in the summer of 2001. And, as fate would have it, we opened up after school started going, and then 9/11 happened. So these were things, and I was like, oh my God, did I make a mistake? Because, and I'm not, this is not a brag, but in 2001, I was making about $250,000 a year at my corporate job. And so I was wondering, did I make a mistake walking away from this kind of money to open a business? Because you know how it is the first couple of years, you got to hump it.
Well,
and it may be 5 years.
250 in 2001 is like 450 today. Like
right.
Totally
it's
different.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Right. And so even my wife at the time, she's like, are you out of your mind? And I'm like, maybe, but this is where my passion lies at, and I'm not happy going to work. And what was funny is that the 2 first quarters after the year of the sales contest, I was still 176% over quota because I had so much pumped into the pipeline. It was just feeding out, right? And I wasn't doing anything. I would literally go into work, put my feet up on the desk, and scroll on the internet all day long. And granted, it wasn't the right thing to do. It was an integrity violation on myself, right? But I was so angry, instead of just turning that anger to action, I didn't, right? But I found my purpose after that situation. And so that's how we got here today. So last year we did, go ahead.
Can I ask just sorry to interrupt, a quick question about, because I think that's a lot of money to give up, man. Like that's a lot of money. In 2001, everyone talks about, like, now they're like, they want to talk about 6-figure income. 6-figure income is like middle class income by
50,000, 50,000,
by any way you
60,000
cut that, right? So why was there like a? Did you not know that you were I don't want to say miserable. I don't want to speak for you, but that how much?
Oh no. Yeah, I was miserable, and there was no doubt about it. And I knew I was miserable. I was pissed off.
But you didn't know what you were looking for.
I think that I knew what I wanted to do, but frankly, I'll be completely honest, I was scared.
Yeah.
I was scared to walk away from that kind of money.
Yeah.
To walk away from that kind of money to open up a business. But I think that when, and the three of us have talked about our faith, but I think that God was talking to me saying, because my school was in my church, so it wasn't like I was, not faithful to where things were at. But I think that when I took that trip, it was like, God smacking me in the head and say, dude, I've been telling you for a year to open your own school and you haven't done it. And so, and I did it. Right. And so it was scary. Yeah. Especially when 9/11 happened, I was like, crap, this couldn't have happened at a worse time, but we just persevered and went through. And, we climbed to be in a 7-figure school by 2004. So
How
within
did
3 years,
how did 9/11 impact the that's a similar story to us. Like we I can speak for myself anyway. Like I was hanging doors in 2000 up until 2019. I think we made the jump November of 19, and then March of 2020 happens, and they declare what you do illegal and non-essential. But how did 9/11 impact? How did it affect you guys? Like, was it did it affect business negatively? Were people like really scared? Did they run to go get martial arts because they were afraid that they were going to be, that they needed it? Like, how did that impact you guys?
when you compare 2001, right, compared to COVID in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
2001 was a blip on the radar. It was like a little speed bump,
Gotcha.
right? 2020 was a way different thing. Now, luckily enough, because of two things: 9/11, the housing crash of 2007 to 2009
Mm.
really prepared us for what was coming in 2020. I just didn't realize it yet
How
because
so?
we got our asses kicked in 2007 to 2009.
Mm.
And I've told you this story, and I'm not going to mention any names, but we had taken business advice from one of the martial arts gurus that had been around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But he never had an after school program and he never had a summer camp program. And those two programs by themselves are what I would call necessity driven income,
Of course. Yeah.
right? They are programs that parents have to have. They can either take them to a daycare, the YMCA, or they can bring them to a better facility like we have, right? And I didn't realize that at the time. So we started eliminating our after school program in 2006. And then the housing crash happened. Of course, it was Hurricane Katrina and then the housing crash,
Mm.
right? And that happened, right? And then the economy just took a tank. And in my area, we didn't lose a lot of jobs, but parents took 15, 20% pay cuts.
Mm.
And so then we're looking at what do we cut out?
Yeah.
Well, martial arts is easy to cut out. Baseball is easy to cut out. Going to Starbucks or whatever is easy to cut out when you don't have the money. But when you have to work and you have to have some place for your child to go, that's a completely different conversation, right?
And and so that is, I mean, that's what we've seen, and we've kind of taken an approach about with our summer camp program. um the options that are out there, I mean, they're kind of slim. Like, I'm not gonna dog on all of them because there are other good programs, obviously, besides Metro, but they're slim and they fill up. And so if you have a grand total of 10,000 kids who need a program, like, the good ones fill up fast. And so
Sure.
and it's very much like I remember, like, I went to the Y as a kid, and it was like it was on the east side of Monroe. Like, it's not like, it's not what we do. Like, I remember, like, I got in this one kid wanted to pick a fight with me, legit punched me. Like, I was walking away and he punched me in the back. And I'm like, this is, like, it's kind of wild. And then you've got, just man, I got to steal that Lord of the Flies mentality. Have you ever read that book, Mo? You ever read Lord of the Flies?
I have not.
It's mandatory reading.
Yep.
It's like, at least it used to be mandatory reading in high school. It is like anarchy, like how anarchy can lead to unrest, but it's a bunch of children on an island, and they just end up killing each other, like literally, like murdering each other. And they made you read this in ninth grade. At least they made me read
Wow.
it in ninth
Yeah,
grade.
and here in
Wow.
Texas, same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
So
David, I
Yeah.
wanted to circle real quick back around to Muhammad's original question, if you don't mind.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with us, we have some amazing jujitsu people here in our area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a jujitsu practitioner. I have done it. I'll get on the mat and roll a little bit. I'm not, I'm a white belt, maybe, a kid's gray belt, right? That's where I'm at. I'm a striking guy. That's where I've done for 52 years.
Sure.
But I'll tell you, we've got Tim Kennedy, and everybody knows who Tim Kennedy is.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of the fact that he's an amazing fighter, he's an amazing human being, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like Tim.
And so then we have Gordon Ryan, Six Blades Jiu-Jitsu, and then we've got Gracie Humaita is big here, whether it's the north or the south location, and some good people. And then we have another guy that we have in the building training with us. So, and I remember when Gordon Ryan was moving in, And Tim decided to open his own school, and my jiu-jitsu instructor came in, what are we going to do? We just, and I'm like, dude, relax. 99.9% of the people don't know who Gordon Ryan and Tim Kennedy are. They don't.
Yeah.
Right.
My wife doesn't even know who Gordon Ryan is.
Right. And it's not taking anything away from who they are.
Yeah.
They're amazing, coaches and amazing individuals, but it's not going to affect the people that are coming in the door, and they're looking for a culture that's going to build their child, that's going to develop the things that we develop, the confidence, the self-esteem, the focus, all the things that we need our children to have. And I take a different approach than most people do. We are taught from childbirth to have the school ladder method: kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. That's how we learn, right? But if you read the book Think and Grow Rich, it talks about beginning with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to you about my leadership program, my Peak Performers program. And one of the biggest things that I shifted things on in teaching parents was, look back to when you got out of high school and you thought you knew everything, you thought you were invincible, and you got out in the real world and you got your butt kicked over and over again, right? Yep. So now think back about when you're putting your kids out into the real world, what skill sets, knowing now that we needed to have, what do you need to teach your children so when you put them out into the real world, they've got it, right? And so that's one reason why I don't freak out about it. Well, and again, go ahead.
No, so just to supplement that, I mean, you will never convince some, with a sport that whose mantra is leave your ego at the door. There's a lot of ego in the jiu-jitsu community. Like
it's the same thing in the striking community.
A bunch of boys wearing black belts, trying to puff their chest out and walk around with a ruler between their legs. So like that is, there's just a lot of ego of what's your competition pedigree. We're with obviously we're affiliated under Coach Alvarez. He's not even close to you, right?
He's in Dallas. He's about 2.5 hours away. Another good guy too.
Yeah.
Love the hell out of him. Yeah.
A good guy. I've never seen him lose since we've been affiliated. And he has equal challenges in rolling people just like we did. Like he can't just show his medals, put them on the desk and be like, yep, so, hand me your card. Nobody cares about that.
No, they don't.
Not one person cares about that. And getting them to understand, like, oh, so you mean I actually, like, we use a lot of your programs, like leadership tickets for the kids. We have different other outside of the mat, like tools and things to help our actual adult members as well. Like we've got a financial literacy class for some of them. Now that times are tough, they're tightening their belts, things that we're doing. Like this is shit that's actually going to make a difference, not how good of an armbar or omoplata you have, and I think that's just like, you can still do it. You still do the jiu-jitsu, but like categorizing yourself as something different. I'll preach it. I talk to anyone. If any school owner has any questions or advice, I pick up their phone. I help them out just like you have with us, but trying to get them to understand that is wild. Like they just can't grasp it. Well, no, because I'm the greatest, highest, best thing since sliced bread. And I'm sure you've seen that too.
Well, and just because you're great at an art, right, doesn't mean that you're a great teacher and a great leader.
Sure.
Right. And so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't jiu-jitsu translate to peaceful art?
The gentle art, I've heard. Peaceful
gentle art, yeah.
Yeah, gentle art.
So and even in the striking side, the traditional martial arts, if you want to call it, right? There's that same stupid swinging dick mentality, and I understand you need to be confident when you go in. But there was something that Tim Kennedy said many, many years ago. He said, it's not the guy that I worry about who comes up in the way off, right? When we're doing the weigh in, right? And he's talking all kinds of noise and trash. It's the guy that's quiet. It's the guy that's humble, right? That's the guy that I really have to be on my game for, because I know that he has a peaceful confidence about him, that he's coming into that ring and he's ready to take care of business. Because if you look at Ronda Rousey's fight when she lost against her first loss, what was that lady's name?
She came.
Was it
I'm sorry.
Was it Hearn?
Was it Holly Holmes she lost to?
Holly Holmes, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And she came in all boisterous and, talking noises. She had never, ever talked before. And I was sitting there watching the weigh-in with my wife, and I'm like, she's going to lose. My wife's like, are you crazy? I'm like, no, she's not prepared. She's been making movies. She's not training. She doesn't look as ripped. She's trying to really, kind of put an alpha over Holly Holmes. And Holly Holmes was very quiet, very reserved. And sure enough, got knocked the frick out because, she wasn't prepared. And so the thing is that, what your accolades are mean nothing. I won a world championship back in 1999. You know how many times I talk about that?
First I've
Zero.
heard of it. It's the first I've heard of it right now. That's
right. I just, and I won that over in the UK. But the thing is that none of that makes any difference to these families. Right.
Yeah.
And so even the people that are the greatest of the time right now, and they're good coaches too, right? But some of that doesn't translate to children. It can translate to adults, but children are a very different animal. They're a very different beast, and they've changed a lot since we've opened our school up. So when we opened our school up full time in 2001, my kids' classes, 4 and 5-year-olds, was 90 minutes long. Think about that.
That's
90 minutes long.
I don't know what you'd have to pay me to teach a 90-minute 4-year-old jiu-jitsu class.
Yeah, we did that for our first year and a half when we opened, if you remember, David.
Well, okay,
yeah,
but to Gary's point, I'm telling you. So first off, the classes were combined, but those were different kids. Like the kids of 29, we are now have a generation of COVID kids, and I hate to coin them like that. But that's what did you expect? What did you expect?
But we have COVID parents. Yeah. Everything starts at home. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. Everything starts at home. I and this is not a pat on the back, right? But when I put together my leadership program back in 1999, I had a billionaire mentor, and I called him and I said to him, "Hey, I'm putting this program together. This is really what I want kids to be able to know and understand when they leave high school." And he said to me, and I said, "So what did you do to make things different for yourself? Because you grew up poor too." And he said, "Well, son, did you read the book that I gave you?" Well, sorry, Mr. McCombs, I got through a couple of chapters. He goes, "Well, you're a dumbass." He goes, "I didn't give you the book to sit on a shelf. The book was Think and Grow Rich. Now it's on my annual read list."
Okay, by Napoleon Hill. Yeah.
Right. So the thing is that it really changed and shifted my mindset. So it's like when I'm looking at I have 5 children, and the way I raised the first 2 is very different than I raised the last 3, and especially my last 2. Right, I'm a whole lot smarter than I was with my younger 2, and so with the last 2, I've got one graduating college here on May 9th. I got one graduating high school on May 24th. My daughter is already ready to start teaching as soon as she gets out of school. And I mean, she's been working here at the academy for years, so she understands about child interaction and what works with children and how to really kind of get the best out of them. My youngest one, he just turned 18 in February. He came to me last night, and he's been working on his real estate license. 18, in high school, playing 2 sports, soccer and volleyball, and doing his senior year, and doing real estate training. And he's 2 tests away from having his real estate license.
Good
at
for
18.
him.
How many tests?
Right, and it hasn't 2 tests. He has 1 module test and then 1 final test, and that's it.
Good for him.
And he'll be a licensed real estate agent. So the thing is, and I've put him in the right place of having the right mentors. And I think that's what parents really miss in understanding about what we do as martial arts instructors and martial arts academy owners. No disrespect to all the traditional sports. They're great, but the majority of them are seasonal. So you're only going to get that student for a short amount of time. And there's some really great coaches, and that's who I plug my kids into for their sports. But again, it's seasonal. With martial arts, we're year round. We have them the whole year, and then we have them hopefully year after year after year after year. And like for some of my guys, I've had them for over 20 years. So to see them grow from when they first walked in the door and they were an unconfident kid and they had no social skills to now that they're leading class and teaching and impacting other kids' lives. And now I have black belts, kids that are now in the studio. I've got literally, martial arts grandkids in the academy. And to see that impact is massive on a scale that I think that parents don't realize the resource as martial arts instructors we are to the community.
So
So
let me ask you, Gary. You I know you've done like martial arts and summer camp consulting, like for schools all over the United States, and you've helped people all over. Are you still doing that?
Yes.
You still have, okay. So maybe you can talk to like some of the parents. I think parents today know that they are um they are busy and caught up in their job and their work, and they know, I mean, I can speak for myself also. There are a lot of times when we kind of neglect what we need to do for our children, how we need to mentor them. And um because we're just in America, we're like 9 to 9. We work more than anywhere else on earth, if you ask me. What gap in the systems that you teach, and we follow a lot of them ourselves, but I want to kind of hear it from you. Like, we are filling that gap in summer camp and the program. So, in short, like, what would parents expect if they're visiting our camp or your camp or some of the camps that you've worked with around the country, to simplify it for parents to understand we're not just babysitting? Like, give us a little breakdown of what they could expect if they're following your program or visiting one of the schools that you've kind of coached and following your system.
I
Speaking
think
to the
the
parents.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for the parents is that one, and I've got a book out called, Beware of Summer Camps. And because I want parents to understand that most parents don't get it, they think they want to shop on price, right?
Yeah.
And so they'll go and they'll shop on price, and then I actually took all the pricing on my summer camps down this year because we noticed that our traffic to the website was amazing, right? But if they're shopping strictly on price and not on services and benefits and features of the camp,
yeah.
they're not seeing the full picture. So we took all the pricing off, and our phone calls and registrations spiked, right? And so it allowed us to get in front of them and explain the difference. But I think that a good summer camp and a parent who understands what summer camp is. For some parents, they just look at us as a daycare center.
Right.
And they're a pain, and they're a bane of my existence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I try to make them understand that I'm giving them life skills. I don't allow parents to carry their stuff in the door. I don't allow parents to carry their stuff out of the door. I don't allow parents to go back and help them get dressed and put their shoes on and pack their backpacks. Kids have got to do all that stuff because I'm teaching them to be independent. I'm teaching them to be able to survive on their own because and we have way too many, whether you want to call them lawnmower parents, helicopter parents, whatever you want to call them, too many parents that want to really not have their child face any adversity whatsoever. And that's just not
to their detriment as well.
100%.
To their detriment.
So I'm not sure if you heard a couple of days ago where there was a third grade girl that did a spelling bee. All the third graders got a list of spelling words that they could memorize. And then they had a tiebreaker system that did not have the words on that list. And so a couple of the kids got to the very end, this little girl being one of them, and they went to the list of words that was not on their words to go to the tiebreaker. And the girl lost. And now the parents are suing the spelling bee association. And it's like, no.
Why do I feel like this is in California? Where was it? Where was it at?
I don't even know where it was at. I didn't hear the location.
To me. Yeah.
But either way, we see it all the time. I have parents come in the door and be like, I think that 10 push-ups is a bit excessive for them to work out. And I'm like, what do you mean it's too excessive? Right? Do you want your child to be, and look at what we're dealing with. The average child today is spending over 100 hours a week on these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And parents
crazy.
are too.
Yeah.
Compared
Gary,
to, go ahead.
What if parents, like, they really do have limited income? So obviously there's more than us and you in the industry. What are 3 things that you, like, any summer camp has to have included? And we have to factor in some people, like this is a, it's a necessity, but like martial arts is it's a luxury. But if they need the summer camp, they want the summer camp, and they want to make the most bang for their buck. What are three non-negotiables you would give parents if you were completely out of the industry that are shopping around?
One, and this is inside of that book, right? Is one, you need to find out where your child's going to be spending, because you figure if they dropped them off at 8 o'clock in the morning and they didn't pick them up till 6 o'clock in the evening, that's 10 hours.
Yep.
Right. And that
Mhm.
makes a massive impact on that child, positively or negatively. So one, who are the people that you have around these children? What are their backgrounds? What is the training that you're implementing into your camp staffers? So like in the state of Texas, somebody who goes to work at a daycare center or a camp really only has to have about 8 hours of training. Right. So my staff does training every week. We do about 2 to 3 hours of continuing ed every week. But my summer camp staffers, they go through a 30-hour training course before they're even allowed to be in front of my kids.
Yep.
Because I want them to understand about how we're impacting these children's lives and holding them to expectations without it being that iron-fisted rule that we grew up underneath the martial arts years ago, right? Having that good balance of discipline, structure, and love that they need to understand.
Yep.
And so the second thing is that what staffing and training, what are they doing? And I do all of my programs as all inclusive, because we learned years ago that if a parent could not pay for a test, then they would make the kid exclude before they would make themselves suffer as a parent. And so then the kid wouldn't test, they wouldn't promote up. Then their confidence, because all their friends have promoted up, they're now way in the back of the line. And so it has a negative impact on their self-esteem and their confidence and their self-value. Right.
No
So
extra fees, no like a la
no extra
carte,
fees.
add this and add. Okay.
Right. Everything's included with the tuition. And that's what I tell parents all the time is that, yeah, call that camp, but ask them these questions.
Yeah.
What are the field trip costs? If there's any professional development along with it. And that's where we have martial arts included with our camps, right? So they're getting that professional development.
Yeah.
They're getting the life skills development, because those are important. The martial arts 2,000 years ago was a battle for your life. Let's say probably once a month, right? Most kids are not walking out the door having to fight for their existence. There are some, depending on where you live at. But most of these kids are not living in a situation where they have to fight for their daily existence. So the martial arts training on the physical side is important, but the mental, emotional, and social intelligence side is so much more important than the physical side. The physical side is important, but it's not as important as the mindset side and getting them where they need to be at, right? Building their confidence and self-esteem to teach them how to face whatever challenges are coming at them and not be afraid of it. And here in the academy, I call it embracing the suck. There's things that are just going to suck in life.
Sure.
I've got a girl in my black belt class right now that just got diagnosed with Osgood-Schlatter's, right? And it's in the knees. It's painful.
Yeah, I've got
and it sucks. Yeah. And so, she's like, well, I can't work out. Why? Your knees aren't going to break. They're not going to, you're not going to be disfigured or anything else. I had it myself. My son had it.
Yeah.
One of my other sons had it, right? I've had 1,000 kids in the program have it. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. But the more you learn to embrace the pain, the more you're going to understand that when life throws me something as an adult, I'm going to be okay. I'm absolutely going to be okay.
Is it realistic to expect like some of those things that kids start to like embrace, accept, and even like adopt in as little as one summer?
Possibly. If I've got them all 11 weeks, I can accomplish a lot. Especially when I have a kindergartner coming in the door and they're pitching a fit and throwing themselves on the ground because they can't, their parents have coddled them their entire life up to this point.
Yeah.
They've carried everything for them. And even watching the summer camp, just watch the summer camp. You'll see it yourselves. When parents pick up their kids, the first thing the kids do when they walk out is they go, here. They'll hand them backpacks and water bottles and lunch boxes, and the parents will take it. Their parents are in a pack mule mentality. right? Instead of being in a nope, you're carrying your own crap.
Gary, does it still count if I do that for my 14-year-old daughter and she's my
Yes,
baby?
ma'am. Yeah,
Like,
yes,
can I
sir.
get?
Absolutely. No, you
Landon
cannot.
will
And
Oh,
you know, it's one of those things that if we don't teach them to be independent, and it's tough, right? Especially when you're seeing them struggle. It
yeah,
sucks, right? Especially as a father, you're like, I really
yeah,
want to step in, right?
yeah,
But you're not helping them. You're
yeah,
not teaching her because what happened. And here's the way that I look at it. And it was the same thing in business. I don't plan on dying anytime soon. I don't plan on going anywhere time soon. But when God calls me home, I have no choice, right?
yeah.
But here's the deal.
Right.
Am I setting my business and my employees up? Am I setting my kids up to be able to manage life if I'm gone? And if we knock down every roadblock for them, if we don't ever let them face adversity, if we don't ever have these things to teach them about how to persevere through life, we are setting them up for failure. I had a conversation with one of my black belts last night who's been really struggling since COVID, like really struggling. We had a conversation last night, and I finally had to be like, you know what?
mentally, you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mentally, emotionally, socially, right? Anxiety, all kinds of stuff. And I mean, this kid is brilliant. I bet you this kid's got at least 180, 190, 200 IQ. It's off the freaking chart how smart he is. And I finally told him
Wow.
last night, you know what, dude, I love you. But I'm not going to sit here and coddle you and tell you, oh, everything's going to be okay. And, it's going to be rainbows and butterflies. To hell with that. You're a second degree
Yeah.
black belt. Buck it up. You're in your second year
Yeah.
of college. It's time to go. And I know it's
Yeah.
gonna suck, but just, put one foot in front of the other. Don't ever
That's
stop.
simple. Yeah.
One foot in front of the other. Because then you're gonna look back at one point in time and be like, man, I'm so far away from where I was at. But sometimes it's even for us is right. It's like if you had a really messy garage and your wife said to you, honey, that garage has got to be done this weekend. And you walk out in the garage and you're like, where the hell do I even start?
Throwing stuff out. That's where you start. I have a burning
You
pile.
just
That's where you
pick
start.
one, right? Just pick one thing to start on and just start. One foot in front of the other one. That way you can at least get a start, right? But if you look at, I don't know where to start. And then you look at that and you just sit down and be like, well, I don't know where, right? And we quit.
Yeah.
And that, unfortunately, post-COVID, that's where a lot of these kids and parents are at. They do not want their kid because they don't want to have to deal with the fact that the kid comes home bitching. I don't like it. It's tough. Yeah, life's tough. I mean, I can tell you that. When in 2006, I opened a second school. And this is right before the housing crash. And I was listening to bad advice, right? And I did not open up an after-school program with a second school, which I should have done. Right? These are things you learn. And I mean, we got absolutely crushed. Our income went from over $1 million a year to 250,000 overnight.
Oof.
Wow.
And I mean, we got gut punched, right? And
oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. But you know what? I never laid anybody off. I pulled my big boy pants up and I just fought my way through. It sucked. There were times that we were literally paying ourselves so we could pay a house payment. What was left over was going back into business, right? So anybody that's struggling business-wise, this is one of the things I tell them. I've been where you're at. This is not a thing where I floated high and everything went well. Man, we got our asses kicked for 2 years, almost 3 years. And we fought our way out of it. Last year, we did about 1.7 mil out of one location, which is not too bad. Now, because we've been buying land and stuff, my profit level was not where I wanted it to be at, but it'll turn back around because that was just being reinvested back into the business.
Sure.
Right? So instead of being at that 30% level I was at, I think we were like at 16%. That's nothing bad at that level, but it's still not where I want it to be at, right? Because I want to build legacy wealth, not just for me, but for my employees. I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but
no, I think I wanted to touch on this, and I don't know, like about a year, last September, 2 Septembers ago, I made a post pretty much telling my son that he wasn't my daughter. And the trans community, dude, they got it.
They blew up.
Dude, man, like they Twitter mobbed me, right? And then so I was like, well, that's kind of. I was like, this is really bizarre behavior. Like this is very bizarre behavior. So then I started reading a couple of books I'd highly recommend. One of which is Irreversible Damage. Another is I can't. But it talks. She talks about how the sexual identity crisis which has hit schools and minors now, and the premise, a huge portion of that is like who raised these kids, and the people who raised the kids are the ones who are doing a lot of things for them. It's a gender affirming care, right? Like affirming care. Like if you and she the author whose name is evading me at the moment, she was like, if a girl walked in and was 110 pounds and told you that she's fat, no responsible doctor would say, yep, you're right, you think you're fat, so here's, like let's put you on these pills to make you lose weight. They would say, no, you're not. Like they would, affirming is not the plan. And she went on to say, like, the by telling your and doing everything for your kid, and removing all hurdles of, oh, you're sad, oh, you're depressed, oh, well, here, let me fix it. No, they need to sit. We had Coach Carl on. He was talking about, he's like, sometimes you just got to sit with that emotion. Like there is no, sometimes, a lot of times the way out is through. Like, and you can say, I'm not, this teacher was mean to me. I failed on this test. This girl was calling me names. She he stole my boyfriend. Whatever type of drama comes with middle and high school, but even younger, of, like I see it, my kids, I'm not exempt. My kids are, they want to, we have a mantra in my house. I was like, Daddy doesn't deal with whiners. So if you're going to go whine, you can leave the room. I don't hang out with whiners. Whiners are losers. Leave the room. Like I won't put up with it. And so they know. And so now all I have to ask is, hey, Landon, are you whining? And he's like, oh shit. Like I want to be around Dad. And so and I'm not like exiling them, but like, if you want to hang out with me, we're going to address the problem and solutions. And just the amount of parents that come in and they're like, they say it, and you can tell it's a story they painted themselves. Well, I don't make my kid do anything that he doesn't want to do.
I know.
That's fucking terrible advice.
You know what my response to that is? So when you want to quit,
What?
when they want to quit school in 9th and 10th grade, you're going to go ahead and let them do that too?
Fill in the dude.
Right?
It's so easy to shoot holes in the argument, but they just because they think, and I don't know where this is coming from necessarily, but they think, that there's this like fear-mongering idea that, oh, well, they won't talk to you when they're adults and they'll end up in therapy. No, like, that's not going to happen. Like, I'm so grateful to my father, who made a lot of mistakes, right? He was doing the best he could, made a lot of mistakes though. I'm so grateful that things were hard as a child, because now, like, the stuff that we go through, I'm like, it's pales in comparison. And that's
It
the
does.
martial arts aspect too. Go ahead, guys.
So Gary, speak to the parents now. Like, obviously there's the parents that are hearing their child come in from camp or martial arts and saying it was too hard or they were mean or something like that. Like, I know you teach us in your courses, and they're pennies compared to the value that you get for people all over the country. Can you speak to, like, if parents are watching now and they say, well, my son or daughter said that this kid, pushed them at camp or at jujitsu or martial arts, or the coaches are being mean to me and yelled at me. Like, where is that time when parents should, a responsible parent, say, hey, I need to go speak to the coach or the owner, and then where's the time where parents say, like, you and coach are saying, you got to suck it up, you got to get in there, take care of your business, do your work, and things will work out. Like, where's the time when we have parents should be looking into it versus letting us do our job as campers, camp counselors, and martial arts instructors? Like, there has to be a little bit of a, I know we follow, but like, for you and your programs and for other parents watching, where is that time when parents should say, hey, something's not right here? Because it's
Yeah.
obviously excessive, but
Right. So I think that parents need to, and this is what I tell my own children. I
yeah,
will go to bat for you. I will get all worked up. I'll do whatever it takes, right? As
yeah,
long as one thing is the case. And that's your being honest with me. No lying to me. You got to put it all on the table, good, the bad, the indifferent, right? And what happens a lot of times is that kids are like movies. They see a picture frame of the movie, they don't see the whole movie. And unfortunately, parents do the same thing, right? They come home, and here's the thing that I tell my staff. The number one question, and watching your summer camp this year, the number one question that parents ask children when they're being picked up from summer camp is, did you have fun today? Right? And so this goes back to staff training about making sure that we're mitigating some of these, what I call shit disturbers. They're kids that have not had any discipline in their life. They think they can come in and run gunshot over programs and nobody's going to do anything because they know in the schools they can't touch them. Right? And that's not the case in a martial arts academy. We'll exercise you. And you're either going to hate the exercise, or you're going to start acting the right way, or you're going to love the exercise so much. Because what I tell the kids, if you keep coming back to me as a repeat offender, you must love doing the exercise. No, I hate doing the exercise. Then act the right way. But I think that a parent, should listen to their children for sure, right? Listen to the kid and have a
that's good
conversation.
advice.
Don't come in all cackled up. My child and blah, 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 blah. And my child doesn't do this. And my child doesn't. Nonsense. I've got 5 of them myself. Yeah. And they're not angels. Yeah. I love them. They're great kids, right? They're now all of them adults now, but they're not perfect. And I know they screw up, and I know they fudge the truth a little bit, and I catch them. Right? And it's like, don't be that parent. And I hate to use this word Karen, but don't be that Karen parent that walks in. And I don't mean a caring parent. I mean a Karen parent that walks in and thinks their child does nothing wrong ever. Yeah. Right? Have an open mind to the conversation about what's going on, and then say, hey, can you talk to the staff of the summer camp? Can you check into this for me and get back to me? Yeah. And a lot of times what we find is that there's a lot of embellishment. There may be a bit of truth to it, right? Sure. 10%, 20% of truth out of the thing, but they never, ever revealed their own part in the disagreement or the interaction between the two people. Because they don't want their parents to be disappointed in them. So they never, ever tell, well, like I had a kid the other day walk in and said he had picked on somebody or pushed him or something. And we've got cameras everywhere, which y'all know, you've been in the academy. And so he was coming in there, and the staff member was saying, you're lying to me. He goes, no, I'm not. I didn't touch him. I said, okay, here's the deal. We're going to go to the cameras. And if the instructor is saying the truth, then whatever discipline he had coming to, whether it was 5 push-ups or a wall squat, or you're going to have to run or burpees or whatever it is, I'm going to multiply it times 10 because now you're wasting my time. So what's the truth? Oh, I pushed him, Master Schill. Oh, you did? Right? Okay. Mr. Roush, you know what to do, right? And you took him back, right? So the thing is that, holding these kids accountable and teaching them. And sometimes I don't mean to be disparaging parents, but, and I'll give you a book that all parents need to read and you need to read as well. Because this is what's happening in our system, is parents need to understand that they need to have mentors in their lives, because kids will listen to the mentors before they listen to us.
Of course.
That's so true.
Of course.
And so it's like when you talk to their parent, your kids' friends or their parents' friends, right? And it's like, oh, and for my son, Grayson, Grayson's he's such a great kid. And he is a great kid, but he did the dishes while he was here and he was sweeping up. And I'm like, did you ask him to do that? Oh, no, he did it all on his own. Are you sure this is my son? Grayson, oh yeah, just an amazing kid. Okay. All right. Right. Because they don't want to disappoint the other mentors or people that are in their lives. Right. Mm-hmm. And I learned long ago that if I said something to my child, sometimes it'd be like the Peanuts teacher at the front of the classroom. Wah, 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 wah. Right. Dad, you're on this soapbox again. So I learned that, okay, I would go to their coaches and be like, hey, Grayson or Savannah or Parker are having a hard time understanding this concept. Can you please bring it up at a conversation? Sure, I'd be happy to. And then the kids would come home for practice and be like, Dad, you never believe that Coach Brown was talking about this, that, and the other. And I'm like, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Now they know what I was doing because I've revealed it to them. But during that time in their early teen years, they didn't have a clue about what was going on, right? So the book that I'm going to recommend to you guys is called The Coddling of the American Mind. And I think that every parent should read this. Now, when I preface this, I'm going to preface this next comment with, I think most of the teachers, I shouldn't say most, I'd say 20 to 30% of the teachers are amazing. Absolutely just, salt of the earth, hardworking, want to be there for the kids. I think there's another 20 to 30% that look at it. They only have to work 10 months out of the year, and they get almost 3 months off in the summertime, and they do the bare minimum to get by. But here's the impact that it has. In The Coddling of the American Mind, it talks about how the education system has been used since the late 70s to indoctrinate our children. Most kids spend, and this happens in summer camp for us and for you, is most kids spend 8 to 10 hours a day with us every day for summer camp.
Correct.
But they only spend about an hour or two with their parents of quality time each day.
Yep.
So if I'm impacting you 8 hours a day and your parents are only impacting you 2 hours a day, who do you think is going to have the greater impact when it's all said and done?
The teachers, because they
Right.
have more, and it's for a greater portion of the year in the school system.
Right.
In the summer camp, you got a limited time, obviously, but
well, we still have 10, 11 weeks, right? Even if they're only there 6 or 7 weeks, but even though that time that they spend with us. And one reason why I look at our responsibility as a summer camp provider. Now, I use it as a marketing tool. I use it as a lead generation tool on top of a leadership tool on top of the other things. But the one thing I really want to do is some people will never, ever go to a martial arts school because their misconception of the martial arts. Oh, my child is already bullying somebody at school. Martial arts is going to make it worse. No, it won't. Because they're going to learn pretty quick when they have to spar other kids in class that are much better, stronger than they are, how that person's feeling that they're picking on, right? So I use it as a tool to get somebody in the academy. They may not ever want to try martial arts, but they'll do summer camp. Yeah. And then they come in for summer camp and they realize, wow, you guys have an amazing program. There's so many things you're doing with the kids, and my kids saying yes, sir, and no, sir, and they're picking up around the house without them. I'm having to prompt them, and they're carrying their own stuff now, and they're not whining as much and all these things. What do I have to do to continue? And we all know the benefit, even just being black belts ourselves, right? The benefits the martial arts had in our lives, and the powerful impact that they had, right? So when these kids are with us 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you see the product come out, right? And so the thing is that kids spend a minimum of 13 years in the education system.
Yeah.
That doesn't include college.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a program that I built a long time ago, and I haven't done it in a long time. It's called Ninja Tricks to the A. And it talks about college students that are coming out of high school moving into college, right? But if you look back and just do a mind study of all the teachers you had, let's just say over just 13 years, kindergarten through 12th grade, how many teachers would you have had in that period of time? And how many of them can you today still remember? In every study I've ever done, it's been about 5%.
About right.
Of 100 teachers, it's about 5 teachers. You're like, I'm 60, right? And so I graduated high school 42 years ago, and there's still 4 to 5 teachers that had a massive impact in my life positively. And I remember them. So you figure out of 100 teachers, if we're only having a 5% success rate, what does it say about our education system? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And with our kids, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 41 weeks a year.
Yeah, I'm trying to count my teachers right now. I think.
Right. So they're 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 41 weeks out of the school year, where the majority of parents, and especially post-COVID, it's even less interaction time with their parents.
Yeah.
Because the parents want to be on their stupid phone. They don't want to be outside. They come to us like, oh, my child's doing this, my child's doing that. Well, you know what? Number one, get them off the electronic devices, period. 2, change their diet. That's the one thing I'm really hopeful that Robert Kennedy is going to change in our food, on our FDA, right? Is get the red dyes and the yellow dyes. We have foods in our country that are outlawed.
Completely outlawed.
completely outlawed in other countries. Heck, you go right across the border to Canada in Fruit Loops. They use natural coloring from berries and cherries and those kind of things to give the Fruit Loop its coloring, not red dye number whatever or yellow dye whatever number ever. And look at how many kids we are dealing with today that are on the spectrum.
Oh, hang on a second now, Mr. Schill. Hold on a second. You're attacking. Well, those are just, we didn't identify autism the way we did today. And like, don't, I think I posted, they just, my pediatrician just booted my kids, all 3 of them.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I was
you
like,
know
if
what?
we're not, if we don't, we can give them all 6 today, or you can go yourself. I was like,
go riddance. Good riddance. I was like, the thing is, we have, and don't get me wrong, right? There are things that our pharmaceutical industry does help out with, right? But there are so many things, and it's all just chase the money back. These guys are not in the business of making people healthy.
What does it mean? Right. What would it say? I mean, and this is maybe a different podcast. If I released, Muhammad, you're in the supplement industry, right? If you released something and the disclaimer was, no matter what this does to you, you can't sue me ever, would you trust that product?
You mean like on the COVID vaccine?
I mean like every vaccine. Every vaccine company, it was back in the legislation. There were so many lawsuits when they first released them. They went to Congress and were like, listen, y'all, if you want this agenda, we need to be exempt. We need a, what do they call it on Survivor? We need immunity. And there's immunity. You cannot sue a vaccine manufacturer. In fact, they have they have a whole separate fund of billions with a B, probably on its way to trillions, for victims with adverse side effects from vaccines, not the least of which is autism. Probably the largest of which is autism.
Well, they know that they've used heavy metals and plastics and those kind of things, right? And like with Muhammad being in the supplement business, right? Yeah. Was something that my wife just completed, and we're waiting for the results to come back. Is that doing a complete genetic makeup, understanding where my body has, what deficiencies I have. I'm 60 now. Things don't operate the same as they did, right? Yeah. I don't shed weight like I could when I was younger. Those kind of things, right? And there are some supplements, and Muhammad can speak to this much better than I can, that are super good, and there's some supplements that are crap. Yep. So even like with, y'all know who Gary Brecka is?
Nope. Yeah.
And do you know about him and 10X?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I heard about. No, I do know. I didn't know him by name. He didn't Cardone screw him over?
Yep, and he took all the products and started manufacturing in a different company, and not at the same level.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're putting supplements into your body, you need to understand, what's going in, and there really needs to be a more stringent process, regardless if it's, what it is, to make sure that what we're putting in our bodies are not causing, further harm. Because the things that we're putting in, and get back to summer camp, right?
Right.
The things we're putting in our children's body is having a massive effect on them. It's having a massive effect on their attention spans, and especially these things, right? And even the industry leaders inside of the tech world and the gaming company and the social media companies, they don't let their own kids play these games. And that ought to be a telltale sign of what's going on. I had a child come in last May, almost a year ago, and came in the office, and I met with the parents, and this kid was off the wall, trying to swing and punch his mom. Took a swing at me, and I had to put him in, to like a special needs child hold, and I wouldn't let him go. I just held him, right? And I told the parents, if you want to be in my program, because I asked him, how much time is he spending on screen? Well, probably 7-8 hours a day. And what are you feeding him? Right? I said, if you want him to be in my program, this was like May the 3rd or May the 4th. And I said, from now until summer camp starts, no screen time. And you have to completely adjust his diet. No more processed foods, no more processed sugars. It needs to be good food, right? And so he got here and he was better, but through the summertime, completely different kid. Not pitching a fit, not throwing things. And now You know, he's been in my program since that time. And there's days he has hiccups. He's a boy, right? He's 6 years old, but he's not the same child that came in the door. And every parent that I've gone to and said, electronics need to be cut out and you need to change their food. And you need to be more of a parent and say, hey, this is what I've got to do, right? Stop using food as a reward. Oh, if you do this, I'm going to get ice cream. No, stop. Stop attaching food to a positive or negative outcome, right? We've got to do these things. So the thing is that, go ahead.
Those are fantastic tips, and we could honestly finish. We could keep going because I love what RFK is doing. But we do have I want to respect your time, Garrett, Master Schill, with this call. Where can people find you? What's your website and your social handles, your phone number? If they're in Texas and they like what they're hearing on here, how can they find you and sign their kid up?
Yeah, so our main website for our martial arts is peakcedarpark.com. That's our martial arts side. They can get the after school there. They can do all that stuff. If they're looking for consulting to actually help grow their business, and I focus primarily on necessity-driven business income. We have a lot of people out there that do, and don't get me wrong. We've got a lot of things that really help business owners out, but I focus primarily in the niche part of necessity-driven business income, and so that is I'm sorry.
Does somebody if somebody like if a couple wanted to like start a business, they enjoy working with kids, they they have interest in something like that, do they have to have a martial arts school in order to start a summer camp business? Okay.
No, they can be doing martial arts, dance, cheer, gymnastics, lacrosse, soccer. I mean, I've got people from all industries that we help, right? The genre doesn't make any difference. It's what we're doing on the instructional side, how we're coaching and teaching them. That's the part that makes a difference. I just like martial arts because I was a multi-sport athlete. Played basketball, played football. Basketball was my big sport that I played. I even had a chance to go to the Junior Olympics in roller skating and figure roller skating when I was a kid. Yeah, you can laugh. It's okay. I don't care. But so I was a multi-sport athlete. But for me, martial arts was always the one thing that kept me grounded. Probably, most likely, kept me out of jail.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I second that.
I was a mad kid. My sister was very sick. I felt like my parents didn't love me anymore. They abandoned me. And until I became a parent, I didn't understand what my parents were going through with a child that had to have multiple open heart surgeries and all these things that were going around that. I was just, they don't love me. They don't show up. I'm out here on my own. And so the martial arts is what really kept me grounded in my martial arts instructors. And, I had one basketball coach, Coach Barbarak, that didn't take any of my crap. Schill, get your head up. Stop walking on like, someone just kicked your dog. Let's go. And he would run me until I would keep my head up. And all those mentors in our lives have a massive impact on how we face adversity as adults. When we were getting our butts kicked in 07 to 09, my mom would come to me and she always tells me now as an adult, she goes, honey, I'm so sorry I was so tough on you when you were growing up. I'm like, Mom, I'm glad you did. One, I needed it. Two, there's nothing that I can't face. Now, I'm not saying things don't suck sometimes, when you're facing them, but I'm not going to wither away. And I look at a lot of kids today, they want to crawl up in a ball. Colleges are giving them safety rooms and those kind of things, or they can go to a cry room. That's not helping them face the challenge and persevere and push through. And like you were talking about, seeing it through the end, right? Yeah. They just look at that. They throw their hands up in the air, Chicken Little, the sky's falling. Oh, poor pitiful me. Woe is me. Everybody should feel sorry for me. It's like no one cares. No one really cares. It's like parents are like, I can't get on the mat because everybody's going to laugh at me. The parents in the stands aren't looking at you. They're looking at their own kids.
Absolutely.
And what they're really saying in the stands is that, man, I really wish I had the confidence to get out there and be like that parent's being out on the mat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time today, Master Schill, and then hope we plan to have you on more in the future. And you've been a huge help to Metro. If you guys want to, if you're looking for summer camp or martial arts in and around Houston,
Austin area.
Or excuse me, Austin. Big difference. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
PeakCedarPark.com, and we'll get you guys going. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys on the mats. Appreciate you.
It was great. It was great seeing you guys, and thanks so much for letting me share and contribute to y'all's podcast.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Talk
Thanks,
soon.
Gary.